Good morning or good evening, wherever you are. I'm Matt Driskill, editor of Asian Aviation Magazine and AsianAviation.com. Today we're in conversation with Anca Mihalache. Did I pronounce that right, Anca?
Close enough. It's
Close
Mihalache.
enough. Close enough. The Vice President for Engine Trading at APOC Aviation. Anca, welcome to the show.
Hi, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you for joining us. I always start these In Conversation episodes with the question of how COVID-19 has impacted your industry and your company. We know that commercial aviation has basically been shut down around the world. Nobody's flying. Production on OEM production has slowed. Leasing seems to be an area that is very interesting because of a lot of things that are going on. How is APOC dealing with things? Give us an idea. I mean, are you guys locked down where you're based? And where are you based, by the way?
Well, I'm based in Amsterdam. The company is based near Rotterdam. So I usually drive every day to the office. In the Netherlands, it has not been a full lockdown. It has only been social distancing rule. People do work from home. School have been closed, but reopened part of them. We are going to the office once a week or never in a week. It depends. But things are starting to move slowly from the 11th of May.
And so give us an idea. First of all, tell us a little bit about APOC. I know that the company's been changing a bit, but tell us, basically it started out as a part-out company, a teardown company, but you seem to be morphing into some other areas.
That's correct. So 5 years ago, the company started, and they have been, before I joined, they have been dealing with airframes, A320 737 NG, so A320 family and NGs mostly, that we would not part out by ourselves. We would part them out in whatever location they are, and then we'd sell the parts. Then, of course, the next normal step would have been to bring the engine. Well, actually, before the engine, we brought the landing gear division a year before the engine division, where we're doing landing gear leasing, trading, and part out. And then last year in March, we started the engine division, where we're doing the exact same thing. We're basically interested in green time engine leases, maximum 3 years, and then we take them back from the lessee and we part them out, not by ourselves. We're going to follow the same rule for now. So we're parting them out in various locations. Of course, we have various partners, and then we sell the parts. And we hope to have the first part out actually this year, because last year it was only leasing and trading when we started.
I noticed you hired a new gentleman to participate in the engine division. And then I was reading, of course, the statement that you sent out with the announcement of his appointment that APOC has made a, quote, significant investment in the engine trading division. You anticipate increased leasing, trading activity. Was this planned? Has this been in the works for a long time, or was this sort of an opportunity presented by the state of the industry right now?
It's a little bit of both. So in our target last year, it was for us to have 3 engines that we trade or lease, and for this year to have 6, for example. And we plan to grow up to 12 next year. And the reason is that last year we had a turnover of over $30 million, and we need to get to $100 million in 3 years. So adding more engines is always an easy way out of this. For this year, as I said, we had a target of 6 engines. We have already traded 1 at the beginning of the year. We started well. Then the unexpected happened, so we had to adapt a little bit to see what is happening, to figure out. It took me a couple of weeks to understand where I want the division to go and how to react with no history. But now, because we're doing pretty good. I mean, we're not striving for cash yet. So right now I have 5 different engines under LOIs that we hope they're going to finalize. All of them are engines.
You mentioned cash, and I was talking to a leasing company yesterday, as I mentioned. Is this airlines and seem to be pretty quick to tap the debt markets and other fundraising measures. Is this an area that you guys are looking to tap? Are you looking to raise capital to take advantage of some of the opportunity and the chaos out there?
We are raising the capital in general for most of our projects. For the airframes, we are doing the crowdfunding. It's a bit higher for the engines because it's a newer division, so we need to gain the trust of the population. APOC has won several prizes in the Netherlands due to this crowdfunding, so it has been marketed a lot. For the engines, we have, in general, either investment funds of various types or banks that are giving us loans or private individuals, high net worth individuals that our CEO, Max Uldrich, has a very good network of. So, and they have seen the history of the company and they know that no matter what is happening, they are going to get their money back. So for the moment, I'm happy to say we don't have issues in raising funding. Of course, I'm assuming everything depends on the future and how this will turn out. But for now, we are okay.
And nobody knows what the future is right now. I mean, you listen to all these webinars at night, as I do. Well, usually they're at night my time, and everybody's the answer to every question is, well, we don't know.
That's correct. I think it all depends. I strongly personally believe that it all depends that the airports are doing the jobs to get the passengers that are healthy to the airplanes, and then I think everybody's going to get the trust back to fly. But I think it will still take probably a month or two minimum before we probably get the fast tests or whatever is needed. The masks here, for example, nobody is wearing a mask because they don't have enough even for the doctors, so they prefer to tell the population to not wear that. I'm assuming that's not going to go very well in the airport, which is a major hub in Amsterdam. So I guess that they will have to adapt like we did and in the end to start flying. Because, for example, I want to see my parents back in Romania. For them to come here, I can't stay that long without them.
Right.
But I'm still staying inside. I mean, I understand it's a thing we have to do, unfortunately.
Now, you're kind of new to the company. You were brought in 2019 from Vallair to head up the engine department. How was the transition? How are things going for you? Is it a lot is it a completely different area that you're now into, or?
At Vallair, I started 6 years ago, and I was there for 5 years, and I have passed from selling parts to doing the entire trading and leasing. I left Vallair last year in February as head of trading and leasing. So I was basically purchasing all the assets and leasing and selling all the assets. Of course, not alone. I had a major team. But my main passion in aviation is actually sitting on the engines. So when Max came with a proposal that I get to start a new engine division from scratch and do it exactly the way I see it fit, and all he needs to do is to bring the funding for them, but then everything is up to me how I do it. So I either swim, I either drown, as he says. It seemed like an incredible opportunity, and I did personally wanted to make a move from Luxembourg, and Amsterdam seemed like a great choice, and it still is. So I'm happy for the move.
I've been to Amsterdam only one time, and I loved it. It was a long time ago. I'd like to go back. I want to ask you a question that really wasn't on the agenda, but we did a special issue of the magazine last year about women in aviation, and the whole subject comes up. It came up at IATA's last annual general meeting when I was there. Qatar Airways, ironically, gave out an award, if you know the history of the leadership of that organization and some of the things that he said. Do you see women making greater strides or in the industry? Is the glass ceiling as it is it breaking more, and are more opportunities there for women these days?
I don't know if by the way I will answer I'll get a lot of fans, but I do think that this industry is treating, I'm saying that from my perspective, of course, but I do think that it is treating women equally. I have never had an issue of not being treated like a human being or not being treated like a woman so differently. I do think that there is a little bit of positive discrimination because it's not a lot of us there. So I think that we're a bit more spoiled than women in other industries. I see the number of women growing a lot, and that, of course, it makes me happy. But I don't think that there is a barrier that the industry is setting, the men-dominated industry is setting. I do think that it's maybe a barrier that women believe is out there because they haven't been presented to the opportunity to be here. My father is an aircraft engineer, so for me it was easy to. I was in since I was a child, of course, but I'm honest. I have never had a feeling that I'm being treated differently.
Well, it's just interesting because if you look at even the boards of IATA and some of the other leadership organizations, there's a lot of old, I want to say a lot of old white men, but in IATA there's men of different color. But I think the last photo I saw, there was one woman, and she was the secretary of the organization. Fine, she's up there, but it's just an area that I personally think the industry needs to improve on. Anyway, we'll move on from that. Back to engine trading. You mentioned that your division is going to focus on the CFM 56-3, 5.8, 5B, 7B, the V2500. Why are you guys focusing in that area?
Well, they're the most spread type of airplanes in the world. Of course, there is also the highest competition in this type of engines or airframes, but we do have the expertise, and we believe that we do offer customized solutions to the operators. By doing the green time lease, we're pretty adaptable. It doesn't have to be, it's not going to be a 7-year lease, for example, that it has to be fixed and it has this certain increase a year. We're a little bit more flexible in getting to their requirements. So this probably makes us being easier chosen by the airlines, I think.
Okay. Back in the early part of the year, people were saying the MAX grounding was having an unexpected benefit, keeping older planes flying, using older engines that were expected to be retired. Would you agree with that? And are you seeing mainly short-term leasing, longer-term leasing?
I do agree with that, and also the very low oil price right now also helps that. Originally, it has been thought in the industry that they're going to be short-term leases, like the NGs, for example, to keep on flying, or I know Air Canada had some Maxes on order where they kept all their older A319s, for example, to be able to deal with the lack of the airplanes. It has impacted a lot, and I think in the end the leases have got to be middle life leases, and then this situation happened. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the big airlines are going to choose to proceed further. For sure, I have seen, and I'm sure everybody has seen, all the announcements of all the retirements of all their fleet. But let's see in the end if this will happen and how it will actually. When we'll start flying, how much we will start flying, and how fast we'll go back.
Well, I mean, that kind of brings me to the next question with COVID-19 now. I mean, the cover photo, I have to promote the magazine a little bit, Asian Aviation, our next issue, which you can download online, by the way. We've got a great photo of all the A380s from SIA grounded in Australia. It's a beautiful shot. But with everybody grounded, what is the engine leasing market like for you? What are your days filled with?
Well, first of all, I think most of the operators for passenger aircraft have asked, of course, for holidays for the rent. And at APOC, we do believe that it is important to help them as much as we can. So if we can provide a couple of months of non-payment with the lease extension at the end, then we are happy to do it. Of course, we don't have a very large number of engines, so it's not going to be, our cash flow is not going to be that much affected. And right now, just like before, we were focused on purchasing. So in January, we were focused on purchasing. In May, we're still focused on purchasing because we have to grow the division. We have to bring the asset in the division. But now we're doing a bit of a smart purchasing, as I call it, because it is important to, unfortunately, take advantage of the situation that's happening.
Well, there's opportunities and chaos everywhere and all of that. Now, I was listening again to one of these webinars the other night, and I heard, and it was another engine lessor, and he said that because of all the problems that he has trying to get, with international travel shut down, you can't fly your normal team in to, if it's an end of lease transition, you can't get your normal people to fly in and do the inspections and all of that and get the signatures from the lawyers and the insurance companies and whoever else needs to sign off on everything. And he said that a lot of times, he said, instead of going through, the whole end of lease process and trying to navigate these challenges, he said, look, just pay us the cash and we'll take the engine back and we'll take care of that. I mean, do you see a lot of that happening?
Well, for us, being a green time lessor is a bit different because we usually have a flat rate and we don't accrue maintenance reserves, and the engine will have to come back in the state that it is. For sure, we haven't returned any engines and we're not planning to, but if it will be the case, let's say one of the airlines goes bankrupt, hope it's not going to happen, then we have already put a strategy in place where our technical team has a very, very large network of different reps that we can talk to that can go to check on the engine and help us bring it back. And the same with our law firm that we're working with. So we are prepared for that, but I think we are pretty safe. But again, we do not have a large number of engines. So.
Right. No, and you're not the only person I've heard mention, having a good law firm. A lot of people these days, I know, and again, I was talking to one of your colleagues, not a competitor. He's a competitor, but your colleagues in the industry, and he was saying, we're paying our lawyers a lot of money right now to be on top of things. Quick question. Entry into service problems like Rolls-Royce, Pratt, the GTF, things like that, how has that affected the leasing market at all? Or has it at all?
With us being in the market of CFMs and the V engines, we haven't been affected a lot because they can't affect our airplanes. We have been way more affected by the MAX, as you said before, than of this. So I'm happy that for now we haven't been. Of course, the LEAP engines will probably affect us in a positive way, I would think. Of us meaning APOC, that we're interested in older engines and we're dealing with older engines. But for the rest, for now, we haven't been affected. Nobody's flying anyway right now. So.
Okay, I'm just curious. I know that sale and leaseback in the airframe is starting to get a lot of attention now. Is that something that happens in the engine leasing market? I'm just not that familiar with it.
It happens sometimes, and it is a preferred option right now if the lessee is strong, because of course it's easier to raise the finance for that. I have noticed from what I have talked with various colleagues in the industry that especially banks, so really big companies with big funding, are going into these bids for sale and leaseback. We would be interested to do that, but until now we haven't found the right price. I do think it's a winning ticket right now the way it is, because like that the airlines can still survive a few more months, maybe a year. And then the lessors will definitely recover the money when everything will go back to normal, hopefully.
Or the new normal, as they've been saying.
Or the new normal.
Now, APOC, as we talked earlier, you guys, initially started part out, tear down, et cetera. You're expanding into engine leasing, or return to leasing as it was. What can we expect from APOC? I mean, there's a lot of consolidation that has been going on in the industry in terms of, say, MRO on engines and airframes as well and other parts. Would this be something that APOC would be interested in getting into if the right opportunity came along, doing the MRO?
We're a very adaptable company because we're pretty small in terms of number of people. So I wouldn't say a definite no, because if there is a very good opportunity, we'd probably take it, especially nowadays. But as the strategy stood at the beginning of the year, we weren't planning to go too much into services. And that's because I think it's important for us to grow the divisions we have now to make them very stable and then go farther. But for sure, there is not a no out there. It depends what opportunity comes across. But we're not going in the market to search for something.
Let's go back. You mentioned, we hope the airlines don't go bust, but we've already seen Virgin Australia go bust and things like that. I hope they weren't a client of yours or anything.
No.
But, and again, and I think we mentioned this before, when it comes to getting your assets back, how do you handle the logistics in another country? And you've got a good law firm, but if you can't travel to somewhere where you've got an engine on lease, how do you deal with that?
If the situation will arise, probably, as I mentioned, we will hire a rep to do all the review of the engine. And, well, the cargo, if the engine would be in Europe, that would be pretty easy because we still, actually anywhere in the world, because the cargo is still up there flying the best time of their lives. But if not, if we can't bring it back, then we are going to just store it find a location in that certain area and then bring it back when the situation will be better.
Okay. Anca, finally, I know it's a difficult time for everybody. Millions of people, aviation is shut down, but hundreds of thousands of people have died. The aviation industry has probably never seen anything like this. I saw some figures the other day that there was one particular day where the number of people carried had actually fallen to the same number as in 1956 on a daily basis. That the volumes were that far down. In not just in your industry, but sort of overall. I mean, is there a bright spot that we can look for? We always like to end these interviews on a positive note if we can.
Well, personally, for me, I travel a lot, and I'm sure you do too. It was a welcome break for take from the airplanes. Now I need them. On the industry side, I do think, if you have asked me 6 months ago if there is any chance that most of the passenger aircraft are going to be grounded for so long, I have said nothing can happen in the world to do that, and yet here we are. But I do see that the airlines are trying to come back and they're planning flights and the airports are working. And I think that eventually we can't stand still. We're too used to travel and to go where we need to go and to see our families and our friends and holidays. And I'm positive that we will return, not at 100%, not even probably at 75%, but during summer there will be an improvement. And also the positive news is that, yes, the number of new cases has decreased everywhere. So hopefully before the second wave, we managed to find a vaccine or whatever it's needed so we can get rid of this virus.
No, I hope so too. Anca Mihalache, did I pronounce that right that time?
Perfect.
Great. Vice President for Engine Trading at APOC Aviation. Thanks for joining me in conversation.
Thank you very much. It was great talking to you.